So the head is still relatively small, quite a pointy face. So this cat will still bulk out a little bit over the next year. And they can also, of course, do all kinds of contortionist type tricks. I'll leave it at that for now. Look at that paw again, eh? Perfect cat track. You can even make it out from here. Look at the pad itself. We always mention that cats at the back of the pad, or the heel part of the pad of the foot, there you can see it as well. Show off. You can see those 3 lobes, typical of all your cat tracks. I don't think I've ever seen a cat in that position before. It's amazing. I think this one might even be, again, maybe because it's still a young animal, even more flexible than the average cat. It almost looks like 2 cats lying head to tail. This is very special, again, just to remind you, if you haven't seen a lot of wildlife programs before, to see African wildcat totally natural behavior like this, unaware of us. To see that anywhere is quite special. To see it live, real time, where suddenly something could happen now, is something that this specific case I've never done before. This is probably becoming my best ever wildcat sighting. Look at that. It's cooler, yeah? Now your cats also, your wild cats, the same as the larger cats out here, they've got these very coarse tongues, almost like little hairy nails, is always the way I try and describe it, on the tongue, and that's very important for when they're lapping up water, but also other uses. One of those uses is for the grooming part. You can see this cat using that tongue almost like a comb to clean the fur itself, and then using the front teeth, not the canines, those little short blunted teeth in between the canines on the front of the jaw, using that to pluck out the odd tick or maybe a little bit of hair that is crumpled together or got some mud in it or whatever else, using the teeth and the tongue in the combination, in that way really keeping themselves perfectly spotless clean. Oh, it's just heard something, or what was going on there? You can see every now and again just checking its environment again, constantly listening. Look at that ear. See, just turning and just monitoring what's going on around it. Something caught his attention there. You can see suddenly head up, listening, alert. It's slightly different behavior. Maybe it's not something too worried about, but the way it's listening is it's not listening as if it's food that's coming closer. It's more like it's hearing something maybe a bit bigger, something to be wary of. Now, these guys, they sort of fall somewhere towards the bottom of the ladder when it comes to predator hierarchy. Of course, out here lions are most dominant, not too far behind them. Second on the hierarchy, spotted hyena, and then wild dog, leopard. And you have quite a few other things. Caracal, honey badgers, sort of, they're almost on their own. They feature, depending on the mood they're in, sometimes at the top. But a lot of other predators as well that would be more dominant than African wildcats. Even though it's a superb predator, very well adapted to surviving in almost all conditions all around the world in different forms. It has to be very wary and aware of larger predators out here. It sort of ties into the question that just came through, Sue just sent it through from Michelle asking from the UK. Basically, if people ever try and domesticate the specific species, the short answer would be not really, but that's only partly true. A lot of your original domesticated cats that were domesticated in northern Africa, in Egypt and so on, other parts of Africa as well, originally came from this. So you can say to a large extent the African wildcat is the ancestral parent of a lot of our more modern day domestic cat species, or cat races really. They're all the same species. So your African wildcats and the cat that you might have at home are actually the same species. So without getting too technical about it, I think that answers the question. They don't really get domesticated a lot these days anymore, but a lot of our domestic cats do come from them. And they also interbreed quite a lot. Obviously cats, and if you're in a city environment, not so much, but you can take most, probably 98% of your different cat races that you find that are considered domestic. And if you just take the bowl of milk away and chuck them outside in a natural environment, most of them will actually manage to survive. They've still got a lot of instinctive surviving abilities and capabilities. So again, it's a lot of feral cats out here as well, and they quite often mate and crossbreed with the African wildcat. And before I get boring, I just want to say that what that does is it doesn't change the species. Obviously, it's not different species breeding with each other. It's more just the case that you have a less pure race in the form of the African wildcat as soon as it interbreeds with other feral cats. Oh, whoa, maybe we're going to see something. Look at that. Yana, you ready? It might suddenly spring into action. It's certainly focusing on something there. And seems to have lost a little bit of attention again. We could sit here for hours. We won't do that, but we could sit here for another while. Every now and again. We're also on a nice road here. We're on one of the boundaries.